No intro. Good evening, everybody. This is
Torture Tuesday struck already.
yeah, it did
We didn't
already,
even get
man.
started yet.
Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to Chasing Prophecy. We are
Good evening.
on UPRN Radio 105.3 out of New Orleans, and so we have a pretty interesting show today. We're just going to shoot the stuff, shoot the shit. And pretty soon Joe will be coming on, and we'll talk a little bit with Joe, to keep us busy. Trisha, she should be coming on pretty soon. So, but at the 10 o'clock hour, we have a very interesting guest. They wrote a little indie movie about deceiving. It's called Deceiving, Seeding, and it's about a bunch of people who got abducted and then pregnant by aliens. And I think it's going to be a pretty interesting show. I was watching about an hour of the show, the hour of the movie before, I had to come on. And where are the ladies tonight?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, right.
They said we're not
Is that
coming
the only
on
reason
tonight.
why you come on, Gary, is to look at the ladies? Huh?
It's all right.
That's okay. But you know what? Whoever's listening tonight, watching in for the first hour, if you want to throw in a question for us, like Gary just did, please do.
Right.
And we will feel free to do it for you.
Ask us anything for the first hour. How about that?
Anything you want.
Anything you want.
They're more
interesting.
Okay. And why is that? Because they're blonde.
You haven't seen the dark side yet, Gary.
Denny hopefully will be on at 10 o'clock. We're just waiting for Trish. But what do you think about, but I know you saw a little bit of it, Jason, but what do you think about women getting impregnated by aliens? What's your honest opinion on
that? I mean, we've heard how many stories, like part of you wants to believe it and part of you doesn't, like I think I'm like in the middle. I think I need to kind of like when we started with the paranormal, I had to see it to believe it.
Mm-hmm.
We keep hearing all these stories, but where's the actual proof of like the actual evidence?
Right.
Let me see it. Everybody could tell a story.
Right.
That's kind of where I'm at. I'm kind of in the middle, like I said. How about you?
You know what? I'm kind of Gary. I know she does blush all the time. Her face turns really red when you tell her that she's beautiful, of course. But with me on that topic here, I'm like you. In like being in the paranormal field for over 30 years, I have to see it.
Pretty soon you can say 31.
Yeah, I know. I know. God, am I getting old?
Couple weeks.
But you know what? It just and like on the other guests that we had for aliens and ETs and stuff like that. Do I believe it? Yes.
What kind of deodorant do you use, Sean?
I don't know. That's what kind? I use something.
Never heard that brand.
I got that. I don't know.
What color is the container?
Oh, it's green.
So it's probably Degree.
Jeez. Oh, wow. Yeah, I am old there, Gary. Yeah, I am. But you know what? Like whenever the other shows that we had on during alien abductions and stuff like that, I always tell these people, I'm like, hey, you know what? Yeah. Do I believe there are UFOs and there are aliens? Yes. But please send me a picture. Let me see it real, face to face.
Yes.
I want to shake the alien's hand. I want that UFO to come down and land in my backyard, so I can actually see it,
Your paranormal Santa.
Paranormal Santa, yeah.
Yeah, let the beard grow out a little bit.
It was Krampus. Did you read up on Krampus, sir, Jason?
Yeah, I know a little bit about the Krampus. All the movies are some of my favorite holiday movies. You got the Krampus movies and Santa's Sleigh. That's like a every year have to watch it kind of thing, you know, tradition.
Right.
You know, Christmas Eve, watch Santa's Sleigh, and then watch Christmas Story on Christmas Day, you know.
I can't get into the Christmas Story movie at all. I just can't.
Well, see, I've seen it so many times, you know, on like a Christmas morning, it's good just to put the channel on, just let it, you know, run all day. And it's background noise, pretty much, you know. But yeah, if nobody's seen Santa's Sleigh, that's a great movie. You should watch it. Bill Goldberg's in it. It's awesome.
Is it SLAY or SLEIGH?
SLAY.
SLAY.
Santa's Sleigh, yeah. You'll see. Make sure you watch it.
I think I will, man.
It's a great one.
But so what do you have planned for Christmas? What do you have going on? What's your typical Christmas morning?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Wake up and get coffee. Coffee is the absolute first thing to do. You know, without that, it's gonna be a long day. But I'm really looking forward to this year. You know, with our son's 18 months old right now, so you know he's up and running around and doing stuff. It'll be really exciting to watch him open presents this year. So that's
awesome, man. You know what? It's a really, really cool feeling, because I remember when my son was at that age, it was great around Christmas, and but now he's 31, and I'm really happy because he's coming home for Christmas. And
very nice.
That's I'm just looking forward to that. But me and my son, our relationship is it is really, really tight. It's not like I talk to him every day, because if I did, we probably wouldn't talk to each other.
Drive each other nuts.
Yeah, we do. You know, but to know that he grew up and became, he's a microbiologist, and he's living out in Indiana, working for like a company that deals with animal food.
Okay.
So he got his doctorate. He's a doctor out of Ohio State, and to think, you know, I just had that little boy in my arms, right? You know what I mean?
Right, and here you are.
And he's 31, and I'm 59, going to be 60 next year. And I'm
like, you went right past the gray straight to white, you know, so you're getting old.
He's old as shit, ain't he? God.
Hey,
damn.
Joe, how are you, man?
Oh,
everybody!
I knew he was old, but damn, man, that's old, man.
But Gary said, I know why the ladies aren't on. You didn't feel right saying ho ho ho.
Ho ho ho.
Oh, I seen a great gift card on TikTok the other day. So the woman had set up her 3 stockings on her thing, and she had a picture of each daughter, and on each stocking it said ho ho ho. I was like, now people don't get it wrong. It was HOHO, but still it did not look right.
So, Joe, what do you usually do for Christmas, bud?
Oh, it depends. Last couple of years, we just been hanging out close to the house. We travel some Christmases. We used to go get a camp. We'd go rent a camp up in northern Louisiana and bring the whole family up there. It's in a national park in the middle of the woods. Beautiful place. Walk up deer, walking through the yard, do great fires, and keep rent it for about a week and bring the whole family up. And 4 bedroom, 3 bath. Everybody could hang out, bring the dogs. If you wanted to go camping, if you want to go fishing, you can do whatever you want. It's a nice park, and you're not all that far from civilization up there either. So
right.
We did that for a while, and then we bought this place, and we were going to start doing Christmases up here. But then I was like, you know what? I don't really reckon my new house. Well, it's not that. I mean,
how many people are we talking here?
Oh, usually 10 or 15, 18.
Holy smokes! Now, do you like all the relatives that come over?
No, but it was great. But you know, they did. What was it? What do they call it? Naughty Santa or whatever it is. Anyway, everybody had a good present and bad present. Nobody could spend more than $30 on anybody. So it's like everybody got a bad present, a good present, and they just drew numbers, and everybody got whatever. It's a lot of fun, and nobody's feelings got hurt that way because nobody spent any big money and stuff like that.
That's the best way to do it.
Yeah, and any big presents were exchanged, away from the crowd and stuff like that. So it worked out nice. It was a lot of fun. And had a nice fireplace in it and all, and so everybody could sit and chill. But shit, it would cost. Last time I did it, it cost me. The camp was $1,600 for the week. The whole thing cost me about $3,000.
Wow.
And Yeah, so I'm thinking.
When you got any more spaces open? You know, I'd like to bring.
So I was thinking $3,000. I could take me and a wife off to Hawaii or something, man.
There you go. Now, why would you want to spend it in Hawaii for?
Because it's away from the kids.
Oh, you can go somewhere else. You can go someplace.
I'm just using Hawaii as an example.
Shit.
Actually, there's some, on the west coast of Mexico, there is some beautiful country down there. And you can go hang out. You can watch it at certain times of the year. You go sit and watch the whales migrate and bring in the young ones and breed and stuff. And just sit there. Some beautiful haciendas along the way. The first time I ever went down there, I just got out of the Navy. And 2 of the places stayed were gorgeous with beautiful views, but outdoor bathrooms.
Oh.
There's like 4 of them out there. So when I think there's like 30 people in the hotel. The water came. They had to go outside with a thing and get the water every morning out the well. So, and then they had a hand pump that you could pump up this thing to fill it up so you could have a hot shower outside, by the way.
Oh, wow.
Was there shower curtains?
Yeah, Mother Nature.
Mother Nature. So, who does all the cooking in your family for Christmas, Joe?
Ooh, the cooking usually gets split up. It gets split up between a bunch of. It just depends. Like if we do non-traditional, like Thanksgiving, we like to do non-traditional holidays. So I'll usually make like ribeyes or something. So I'll cook steaks. And, I'll make some stuffed mushrooms and a couple things like that. We always do one holiday non-traditional. I can only eat so much turkey, people. I'm gonna be honest with you. I like turkey, but I can only eat so much of it. I'm
Hi,
like,
Trish.
Hi.
Hey,
Hello.
Trish, how you doing?
Did you wake up from a nap?
Thanks for coming in.
No, I was rearranging stuff and it got later than I thought it would.
That's not hard to do.
Gary's been waiting on pins and needles for you to show up.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Gary.
Oh, yeah. Gary, man.
And
Look, she's starting to blush already.
You all are in a different time zone than me, so.
Oh, that's no excuse. It's only
Later
an
there.
hour. Joe's on an hour.
I'm in Central Time, so it's only 8:30 for me.
Oh, you're lucky.
You're lucky. So, Trish, we're talking about Christmas traditions. What do you guys do for your family?
Well, we usually all get mad at each other and go home with a bunch of food and gifts that we don't need.
That sounds like an old age.
Re-gift for next year.
That's like when my other family used to get
I'm
together.
kidding. So for me, and my kids, obviously, I celebrate Yule, and that's winter solstice, of course, on the 21st, and basically that's just changing from the dark months of the year to the light. So, there's a lot of that's.
He's got his little puppy up there. Look at her. She's a yapper, dude. Boy.
She said, I love you. What are you talking about? I love everybody.
She's wagging
That's her whole size right there. I think she's 4 pounds.
That's like my smallest one.
She's
So what's the whole deal behind Yule? Can you explain to our people here?
Yes, there's many different stories of where it originated, whether it was in the Nordic cultures or German or places like that. But basically, it was a battle between the Holly King and the Oak King, which won, obviously, the Holly King representing the darker months of the year after the autumn solstice, and then the Oak King representing the lighter months. So Yule is the days, the 12 days leading up to that, which is obviously where the 12 days of Christmas came from, is where they had a battle, an epic battle, and the Holly King surrenders his crown to the Oak King for the light months of the year.
Oh, that's pretty interesting. But before we go on, my friend Deborah Ann, she does psychic fairs, okay, and so this Saturday coming up, or Sunday, let me get this right. She's having a mystical psychic Christmas present fair giveaway this Sunday, December 12th, from 11 to 4 at West Meeting Center, 1204 5th Street, West Elizabeth, PA, 15088. You got to go down and check them out. She's going to have readers there. They're going to be giving out presents, and I have met her. I've actually did I did do a class on the paranormal at one of her shows, and all the readers down there are beautiful people. They're really nice, very very kind, very very good readers. And so if you're not doing nothing on Sunday, go on down to West Elizabeth and check it out. Maybe you might get the Christmas guy that you've been looking for, you know what I mean, or the Christmas girl, however you want to put it, you know what I mean.
Take some mistletoe with you.
Yeah. But go on down, say hello, tell Deborah I said hello, and we'll see what happens. So,
are you going?
No, I'm working, dude. I'm working.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I tell you what, this past starting November 1st up until January 1st is like a real rough 2 months for me. Because I'm a meat cutter, of course.
Sean the Butcher Kelly.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, why don't you send me some good cuts, man? What the hell?
Yeah, really.
Oh,
Give me your address, Joe, and I can
send
them
like
to you,
kick
buddy.
to the curb, man.
No, I ain't kicking nobody to the curb. I'd be just like, give me your address, and I'd be happy to mail them to you.
I got bad enough. I got to argue with that
ice.
local butcher down here. I think he's done going new age now. He said, "Well, how can I cut that avocado for you?" I said, "What the hell are you talking about, man? Come get some ribeyes." It's just avocado, man. Don't get me wrong. I like avocados too, but man, come on now. It's I remember a good teacher, when I was young. When I first
speaking of avocados, did anybody ever see the size of them down in Florida? Holy!
Yeah, it's like they're
massive.
Man,
I've never seen avocados that big.
No, we get
down
both
in Florida.
We get California avocados, which are about 3 inches tall, 3 inches around, and we get Florida avocados, which are about the size of a softball.
Yeah, right. If not bigger, you can knock somebody out.
I mean, they're good, but they're not quite as avocado-y as the ones from Florida, I guess. You know where I get them from? Sometimes we get them from Mexico a lot, and they're good when they come from Mexico. They must be spicing them with some illegal drugs or something. Things are good, man.
That's how they're smuggling everything across the border.
Speaking of going vegan, man, I'll tell you what. Today, I had a rough day at work. People are dumb during the holidays. They really are.
Get on.
Ask stupid questions. And I was looking at the beef that I was cutting today, making it into chops and steaks, and grinding meat. I'm going to tell you how crazy I get. Listen, dude, this is true.
Well, here we go.
There's a couple times I get so stressed out at work that when I'm grinding ground meat through the grinder, I'm actually hear cows mooing in the background, man. It's like,
jeez. I thought you were going to say, like,
you might be tired of that job, man.
You're going to stuff yourself down in the grinder.
There's some people.
Sean the Grinder Kelly.
So somebody from New York named Chris is, what do you mean vegans? No, dude. There's nothing wrong with vegans. I got several friends that are vegans.
I'm not wrong with it.
I'm just personally not a vegan. I don't have anything against vegans. And I got some friends that are what I call kind of be vegans and some that are true vegans. What I mean by kind of vegans is they eat fish. So if you eat fish, you're not a true vegan. True vegan only eats vegetables and fruits.
I think people though are like animals and dinosaurs and stuff. You have the meat eaters. Like there are obviously I studied the different diets and stuff as a personal trainer, and there's certain body types that need more, or depending on where in the world you're from, that need more protein, that need more, certain nutrients. We're all different shapes, sizes, whatever. So I think there's literally, like, we have people that have to be meat eaters. We have people that have to be vegetarians and vegan and all that. So it's just
all I can say is I love animals. They are delicious.
Yeah.
Well, I like a happy balance. Let's not get crazy. I like.
I tell you what, I love fish. Fish is good. I like fish.
Yeah.
See, I can't. That salmon I can't deal with. But I got a secret for everybody out there. You know how perch and cod and it's the white fish, how they turn smelly so bad all the time. That they don't last. If you soak it in milk for about 4 or 5 hours or overnight, the milk actually takes the fishy smell out of the fish, and it tastes really good. And it don't stink.
It's interesting you bring that up because there's two kind of seafood people down here. There's me and there's people like me and people like so. When I go get seafood gumbo, I don't want the seafood flavor to be outrageous. I want it in there, but I don't want it to be outrageous.
Very minuscule.
But most of my family, if it doesn't like you just put a raw fish in it, they don't want it. I mean, they want the full, they want that strong, heavy fish flavor. When I get on my here, y'all can have mine. I just don't like it like that. It's just one of those things. But some people do, some people don't. You know, and I like a lot of gumbo. I mean, gumbo's basically vegan, but just with crab and crawfish and oysters and whatever else they can think about throwing in the damn thing. But what y'all pay for shrimp up there, man? How much y'all pay for shrimp up there?
We had shrimp on sale, $27 for cooked shrimp.
How much?
27
a pound.
A pound, yeah.
Jesus, boy, we got to talk, Sean. So I get fresh out of the Gulf shrimp.
Road trip.
I get 20 count and 30 count for $2 a pound, fresh. I mean, just caught. And I get like 12 count for about $3.65 to $4 a pound. These are monster shrimp. I mean,
like the 12 counters, 8 to 12, they're.
We use
but
them
you know
for
what?
stuffing.
To me, I don't like the real big shrimp because it's
dinner.
like eating a lobster, dude. You know what I mean? I like the medium ones, like the 3140s or the 5160s. You know,
I like to eat them and I like to use them for bait.
What do you? Yeah.
I'm in Kansas where we're landlocked, so I have no idea what y'all are talking about.
Yeah, because y'all are home with a steak. That's why.
Oh, I had steak the other day. New York strip steaks. Ooh.
You
know the difference? I didn't know when I first moved to New York. I was like, well, wait a minute. I thought they were called Kansas City strips. Like,
because they are actually.
Are those from New York? Or are those cows from New York? Or are they from?
It was actually originally a Kansas City strip.
And then they renamed them.
They did. New York renamed.
It's kind of like pagans and Christmas. I mean, you know.
See, to me, New York strips are a boring piece of meat.
Well, out of all the cuts, they're the toughest. But I mean, you can make any steak taste good. But
you just gotta grill it up right.
You know, but my doctor prefers that I stick to sirloin or filet mignon because there's no fat.
Is that your dog? Yeah. We know what
him and I fight about that all the time.
Dr. Joe. Dr. Joe.
No, my doctor, no, that's just because it's a less fat. Because I tell him I like steak. So he said, well, can you at least eat the filet or the sirloin? He said, there's not all that fat in him. I was like, Doc, I like them ribeyes, man. What the hell's wrong with you?
Get you a nice porterhouse.
Oh, I love a good porterhouse. That's my favorite all steaks. So you get the best of both worlds. You get the New York on one side and the filet on the other side.
You get the filet on the other.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with a porterhouse. But
I'd rather eat the filet than the porterhouse than the
I'd like to have more porterhouse, but my checkbook won't let me. So I got to do.
Well, here it's actually cheaper. You know, most people have everybody you know around here raises cattle. A lot of them have grass-fed beef, and so most people just buy the whole cow and split it up between the family, and it's cheaper, and you know where it came from. It's grass-fed. That's usually the kind
we get organic down here, but they only use so much grass. They like to do like a honey molasses mix. The meat we get all black Angus. It's really, really good beef. It's really clean. All the cows are free range. They get to roam around, do what the hell they want. So, but South's big in beef. So we get. Well, Kansas is also another state that's big in beef. So there's a lot of beef cat. I mean,
I think Angus, the black
Kansas and oils. I mean,
they're known as the black gold here. Is the Angus
oil and beef.
Hey, in fact, we get, sometimes we get our beef from Nebraska, Oklahoma, and Kansas.
No, we get all local. Now, they got one guy down here that brings it in from Mexico sometimes because you get
dude, talking about Mexican beef.
Because they shoot it with water, but we ain't going to get into that. We don't hate on them.
Oh, no.
We got like half
it's the grossest thing in the world to cut. I mean,
it's full of water.
There's no fat.
So Mark's writing in from New York. He said, first off, it is a New York strip. No, actually, it was a Kansas City strip first. When all the big oil boom happened in the South and in Kansas, it was a Kansas City strip. New York just stole a name, my friend. The restaurants, I'll tell you why. Old restaurateur a long time ago decided it's hard to sell a Kansas City strip. People like Kansas. What the hell is Kansas? It's just oil. They don't think about beef, even though it's a big, huge beef producing state.
Yeah.
So they just stole it. Is what they did. Shame on you, New Yorkers. Shame on you.
Well, and then so I just found out like a year or two ago, Kansas originally was covered in grapevine, like vineyards or whatever. I mean, so technically, New York stole our beef name. California stole our wine. So
that's because you're in the middle of landlocked nowhere. You can't really do nothing about it. You're stuck. You're just stuck. Like you can't even escape, man. I mean, where are you going to go? Texas?
Yeah, people ask me, they're like, "So, do you like Kansas?" You know, I've lived on the coast. I've lived in other countries, and I'm like, what would make you think I have to drive 8 hours across flatland? You know, where there's nothing. There's nothing. And where am I? And then where am I going to get to? Nebraska, Oklahoma, you know, Missouri. Like,
you have no hills out there at all. It's all flat.
I might be heading to Oklahoma here pretty soon. I don't know. I might have a couple jobs down there to do. Never been there.
We should go to. I went last year to the Skirvin Hotel, not for an investigation, just to for my hypnotherapy certification, actually. But it is one of the most haunted in Oklahoma City. So actually,
go, man.
But it's
if I got to go down there, if I'm close, I might have to go check it out.
It's an amazing
Oklahoma
hotel.
don't get nothing for nothing, man. Somebody's got to help them out.
What?
What's that?
Oklahoma doesn't have no real. I mean, other than maybe some sports, they really don't have any claim to fame. So I'm kind of like
haunted hotels.
Yeah.
That's not enough. I mean, you got New York City, which got all kind of shit in, and it's got a dozen more, haunted hotels in it.
Hey, Mike, you should bring that question up to Angley. You know that about the New York
Angry. That's what I call him, Angry.
But no, I was watching some crazy stuff about New Orleans, Joe. They were called the Coven Girls, or what were they? They were like buried or something like that.
There's a lot of weird stuff going on down here, and most people don't realize it, but most cities are only allowed one coven per city. It's a witch thing. It's not a written in gold thing, but New Orleans has three major ones down here that actually control several around the country, which is interesting because they keep it. Well, two of them keep it 13, one of them keeps it 12, but that's not the whole coven. In old days, that would have been the whole coven, but that's just the base part of the coven, and then it just fingers out from there. And over the years, I've met a lot of them. I've had business dealings with them in other ways, and not in the paranormal, but in other ways. It's how I met the necromancers. I got a call from one of my customers on magazines. She said, "I need you to go fix something in this house." He said, "Who are you going to send?" I said, "Where's it at?" He said, "Man," I said, "You know what? I want to go look around, do some shopping, so I'll go down." So I pull in. This house is purple and black. I'm looking at it. I said, "You haven't seen this house for a million years." So I get up to the door. It says "Community of Necromancers." I'm like, "Oh shit!" I was heavy in witchcraft at times. I'm like, okay, so walk in. They're talking. First thing that hits you when you walk in the house is it smells like you milled. I was gonna say you milled aside, but embalming fluid. And I'm like, oh, okay. Kind of wonder what's going on here. So they're taking me around. Yeah. So they're taking me around, showing me parts of the house. Well, they've got a room with a coffin in it with a person in it. A dead person. But so one of the necromancers about 10 years earlier had donated his body to the necromancers to use for whatever they wanted to use, from illicit weird sex things to body. Anyway, originally it was so they could bring up a demon from the other side. That's what it was originally there for.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Huh.
So that's what I said. Obviously it didn't work for me. So, I said, look, I said, I looked up at him. I said, "You can't show me stuff like that." And they're like, "Why? You scared?" I said, "No." I said, "I work for the owners." I said, "I'm supposed to report stuff like this." I said, just like a couple of weeks earlier, I walked in a guy's house. He had like 10 pounds of marijuana on his coffee table. I said, "Dude, he's want to know you're cool." I said, "Dude, it doesn't matter. Don't put me in that spot. I work for these people, man. I'm supposed to report this shit when I see it." So I'm telling you, there's like 10 girls in there dressed in goth. I mean, they just gothed out. And like two guys that was so loaded, I don't even think they knew who the hell they were. And so they're walking me around. I said, look, just show me what needs to be fixed. And at this point, I want to get out of this place. I'm like, so just, and then they said they invite me to this party. So the paranormal side was, you got to go check this out, Jay. You dumbass, you got to go check this out. And I said, it was I forgot what they called it now. Anyway, they get together and they all cast a bunch of spells way out in the swamp. They used dead people's parts that they stole from the cemetery, not from their cadaver, because New Orleans got all them above ground cemeteries, and of course everybody thinks Marie Laveau's buried, and she's not buried in any of them. They argue between Cemetery 1 and Cemetery 2. She's not in any of them. She's buried out in the swamp. I know her great grandson, and he always cracks me up too. He's like, man, these people are just dumbasses. He actually went on two TV shows and said, look, I can tell you exactly where she's buried. I'm not going to take you there because my family would hurt me, but I can tell you it has nothing to do with any cemetery inside the city whatsoever. He said she's way out in the swamp, and one of her favorite places. He said one of her favorite places. They used to have a little shotgun house out there. You can only get, and still homes you can only get to by boat down here. Can't get to them by car. And she used to go out and push pole out to there, and they would do their stuff out there. And they would bring a lot of the aristocrats from the city out with them because she was a hairdresser, and a party maker. So she'd get together and tell these people these stories and show them this magic and give them spells to catch each other and shit like that. And she's being quite famous, so she would just take them out and have a big party. Don't even want to think of what the hell they were doing in the middle of the swamp at 2:00 in the morning with a bunch of people back in the 1800s. I just don't even want to. Probably something I don't even want to know about. But he used to tell me about all that stuff, and he took me out and showed me the place. And he said, because he's like, I know you had to say anything, which he's right, but it's not where I thought it was going to be. Not even close, man. I actually thought I had a clue. I ain't gonna lie. I thought I had talked about this with some people. I knew a bunch of people in the city that were tracking it and stuff, and I met a bunch of people at one of Anne Rice's parties, her Hall of Ease parties, and I really thought I had it cornered. Not even close. And there's actually a little monument out there too. They keep it really clean. They bring her fresh flowers all the time. They bring blood twice a month. They keep it. I mean, they keep it really nice out there. The old house they've restored 100% to the way it was originally, because this would be a gold mine if they ever wanted to just make it a tour, which they never. It's you got to drive 11 miles into the swamp. Then you take a boat for about 6 miles, and then you catch a pirogue, which is just basically a flat canoe, and you push pole to where the place is, which is about another 5 miles. That's about 21 miles.
Wow, that's pretty far in there.
Yeah, hell yeah, that's a long. Well, Jason, how far do we travel to go see something haunted, dude?
Yeah, we go pretty far.
We go way far.
Oh yeah, we do too.
Yeah.
I mean, now I'll show you what they got down here. They got right off the side of the interstate. They got an 8-grave graveyard. It's 308 years old. It's all children.
Oh wow!
You used to have headstones and all, but they're either been beat up or faded. Somebody had went and put a chain link fence around it to protect it, but they got tore up in the last storm, and it's just there by itself. And then there's when NASA took over during the Apollo program. NASA incorporated 5 cities. They just took them over, shut them down, kept the water things, and just flattened the cities to dirt. But they left the cemeteries, and they keep them in good condition because people actually still bury people there. So the first one we found by accident. We was screwing around at 3:00 in the morning, UFO hunting actually. And I said, let's go down this road, maybe in down the river. We can sit on the river and see what's coming up down the river. Because we're about a mile outside of NASA's main facility. We're on NASA territory actually. And I pulled up and said, what is that? And I seen this big, huge, scary looking tree. And I kept seeing these piles of sand. I'm like, what the hell? So I get up and I see this chain link fence. It must have been somebody's house at one time. So I get out with the Q beam. Oh, and first thing I see is tombstones. I'm like, oh shit. I'm thinking, am I going in there? So I'm getting back in my car at this point. And I'm like, one side, the little angel's going, Joe, get back in the car, get back in the car.
You got to check it out, man.
And the other one's going, Joe, open the gate, open the gate, open the gate.
YOLO.
There's a little devil on your shoulder saying, go ahead, there's something waiting for you.
I got it. I had my phone with me, and I walked through it. And nothing came into my phone but this big blob of whiteness, which I still don't know what it is. So the first thing I noticed was about 10 rows of these baby graves. They probably couldn't have been somewhere between 8 months and 2 years. They couldn't have been any older than that. The graves couldn't have been more than 2 feet long. And it was I think it was in 1711 or 1713, somewhere right around there is what was on the graves. So it's an old graveyard, still in use today, but an old graveyard, beautiful graveyard at that. I got a lot of beautiful trees on it in the daytime. And so I was like, okay, I want to come back in the day because I want to catalog what I'm seeing. I want to do a little research on it. So we come back in the day, we catalog where everything was, the really old graves, the really new graves, what might have been weird. Some of them had these weird things around them. And then we go out there the next day to finish cataloging, and we get out there. So there's a piece of string coming down from the tree directly center of the graveyard. And then there's this little white napkin or rag tied there. You ever see how people make the little ghosts to hang in their trees and they wrap it around the neck?
Yeah.
Look just like that, hanging over every grave. And right below that was a bottle of water. Now, if it could have been a spell, it's not a spell I'm familiar with, something I've never seen before. I have no idea what. I looked on the internet, I looked all over, I couldn't find anything for it. I called a couple of my friends that heavy still in witchcraft, and they're like, I ain't never heard of that. He said, I have no idea what that could possibly mean. And so we looked, and still to this day, we haven't really found that. So we categorized that, we videotaped it also. We set up an expedition for 2 o'clock in the morning, and we go out there with 14 people.
Why so many people, Jeff? Why?
Because it's a big place, and I don't want to spend. And we only had 4 hours of darkness, so I wanted to cover as much as we could. So everybody got their assignments of what part of the graveyard they were going to be in, because there was a lot going on. So we pull up, beautiful, crystal clear night. We pull up to the graveyard. We get out the car. We walk in the graveyard. We're in that 8 minutes. A layer of fog comes over there, just over the graveyard, waist deep. Just,
no, that would be.
Cool. Ain't nowhere else.
That
You
would
can
be
see
awesome.
my car.
Yeah,
on the video, you can see the fog, and you can see my car off to the left. There's no fog around my car whatsoever. You can see down the road. There's no fog. You can see the woods. I had to held it up. You can see the woods next to us, just inside the graveyard. So I walk over. I wanted to show somebody where the baby graves were. And I said, I want y'all just to set up a camera here and watch it. So they set up one on a tripod and pointed it down. And all you could see was, so the fog was lifting from the bottom, rolling up to the top, and then rolling over and rolling back down to the bottom, like there was some kind of convection going on. Just over the baby graves, nowhere else.
That's interesting.
Yeah, that's really.
I still don't know what it meant. And
how about you? Maybe Trisha would know. What do you feel there, Trisha?
It was weird.
So you said there was a string with the little ghost thing, and
it looked like I don't think it was actually a ghost thing, but it looked a lot like that. Like there was something in the napkin or rag or whatever it was, and it was just tied on the bottom. So it wouldn't come out, but it held from a piece of string from the top, so the ball was on top and it flared on the bottom. It did look a lot like them ghosties, but I don't think that's what it was. We were nowhere near Halloween or anything, so it was spring.
I wonder if there's got to be something behind that, though.
It's got to be something. And then there was a bottle of water under every one.
Maybe some kind of offering, maybe?
Go ahead, Trish.
Well, that too, it could have been an offering, but there's a lot of different ways, witches make cemetery water as well.
I didn't think about that.
So,
what do you mean? What's cemetery water, Trish?
Well, there's cemetery water, there's cemetery dirt, there's moon water, there's moon dirt, there's.
Yeah, it's true. I didn't think about cemetery water.
That's crazy, man. So what you're saying is people hang bottles of water?
Well, no, I assume that was a way so when the fog rolls in and a lot of times, that specifically surrounds lower parts of the cemetery, which could have looked like it was just headed to the baby's graves, or it could have been because maybe they had more spiritual energy, and so if the fog was attracted there, then I assume the bags hanging over it would have been able to catch the condensation almost.
That would have been right.
And then whatever they put in the bag would have just enhanced that, whether it be oils or herbs or bones or whatever, so.
Well, 2 of the psychics thought it was some kind of protection, which it might have been. We did bring something home with us that night because I had to put one of my friends through a wall.
You took it from the cemetery? Are you crazy?
No. We didn't take anything from the cemetery. We just something picked up an attachment.
Oh, boy.
I meant the water. So.
No, I didn't take anything. I don't take anything from cemetery.
Did you drink it?
No. But I did check to see if the lids had been opened, and they hadn't been. The seal hadn't been broke on them.
Oh.
So you could have had some fresh water.
So I'm not.
So those bags weren't like.
I was tempted to open the bag, but I was like, no, because I don't know what was in it.
Yeah.
If somebody spilled, I didn't want to disturb it. I wouldn't anybody screwing anything of mine. So, it was weird. It was the whole night was surreal. But When we got home, one of our friends just lost it. He just lost it. Something took him over. He was screaming, throwing shit, freaking out, and he wouldn't stop. And finally, he was doing something to somebody, and I grabbed him one arm and I just pushed him between the folders. His shoulders went between the 2x4s on my wall. I pushed him through the wall and just held him in there. And I was going to hit him because I was pissed. And I still remember his sister put all of her weight on my arm to keep him. She said, "You'd have killed him." I said, "I wouldn't have killed him. I just would have knocked him out." He had lost his mind. I don't know what had happened to him. I mean, and then once he's like, his sister slapped the shit out of him and he just popped out of it.
I mean, there's times that we've gone to places, cemeteries and stuff like that, and what I get from baby graves is sadness, total sadness. Like, I get really, really depressed, and it's real hard for me to set up a camera or go over and just snap pictures of baby graves because I don't know. I just get this weird feeling like I'm a freak or something like that. You know what I mean?
Now, do you get the depression, weird feelings from the mind factor that it's children graves, or do you like feel that from the grave? You know what I mean? Like the energy from.
No, I feel the energy from the grave. I mean,
I do the same, but I think it's more. It's not because they're children. It's a feeling. It's like the innocence, because that has a different. Obviously, since they're younger, they have a different feeling energetically than obviously someone older. It's kind of the same with animals to me, with a lot of animals, because they're pretty innocent.
A lot of people, like I tell a lot of people, I feel really safe at night in the cemetery. I really do.
Cemeteries are witches' sanctuaries.
Yeah, I mean, literally, if there was a zombie apocalypse or something like that, I'd have to go to a cemetery because I know that I'm on hollow ground. And
but they'll get you easily out there in the open.
But you got to be careful. So in New Orleans, all the above ground cemeteries, or two of them, have not been blessed with holy water. Oh. So there's no protection in them at all.
Oh, really?
Yeah, not at all. And nobody knew that until somebody was exploring one of the registries, one of the New Orleans. New Orleans was burnt to the ground like 3 times, and it's flooded in all the graves. And that's why we have above ground graves, because in the old days, way back 300 years ago, it'd flood. And coffins would just pop up and take off down the streets, pop open, and dead people would fall out of them and shit. So that's why we have above-ground graves, man. And it still happens from time to time. But
it happened here during the floods a few years ago.
It's freaky when you see it too, man. All of a sudden you see a car. And for a long time, you could walk through the cities that it did, and you'd see like hands hanging out the grave, where grave robbers were trying to get into them and stuff, take bones or jewelry, because a lot of people buried with the jewelry and stuff. It's a strange feeling, but all of the graveyards had been consecrated but the 2, and that's how they found that, because there was I think it was a cardinal was down here trying to figure something out about the city. So they know there was 2 because it's mentioned in both the cathedral and the city's records, but they don't know what 2.
Interesting.
So I'd like to find out, just so I can stay the hell away from them.
Yeah, right. I tell you what, when we were at the Grove Cemetery, we've investigated that a couple times, and there's a section for children up there, and like Sean said, it's just sad, just the sadness, because it's children. But there was a tombstone. It was really tall. It was like 8 or 9 foot tall. Another investigator of ours came up to me. He's like, "Hey, you need to come and check this out." She's like, I went near this one tombstone and it just started getting real like sick feeling and stuff. And I'm like, all right, well, let's go check it out. Take some equipment over. And this is, God's honest truth. Like, the closer I got to this one particular grave, the energy that it was emitting was just so intense that I instantly got nauseous. I was like, holy smokes, I think I'm going to end up, I'm going to vomit on this, and you couldn't make out the name on it or anything. So it was really, really old. And, as we walked away from it, everything went back to normal and you started feeling right. And I was like, maybe that was a fluke. that's possible. So I did it again later in the evening, went back up to it, and there's just something about the energy of that one. Sean, you remember Julia talking about that?
Yeah.
That was crazy. The energy coming off that one grave, so it's really
Yeah, I know. She was like, I mean,
she
she
got
was
it
like
real
a
bad.
zombie, man. She just kept being attracted to it, and it wouldn't leave her alone.
No, and then like I said, she came up to me, and I went over to it, and it made me feel sick.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was like, okay, this is crazy. I've never had that happen, so I had to definitely try it again, and it did. I'll never forget that.
Oh, that to me, that there was a lot of cemeteries that I have gone through, and Grove Cemetery is like one of the most haunted ones. Now, the very first one that I went to was when I started PPS was Restland Cemetery, and the deal up there was the ghost walking Rosie. And the backstory to that was one night a bunch of kids went in there and took her gravestone and threw it over the hill. Hey, Jen.
Hi, how you guys doing?
Hey, Jenny, thanks for coming in
How
today.
are you? Thank you for coming
I hope that was
on.
an awesome nap. You must feel better.
Yeah, it was a great nap. Smart ass. Where's
Better
Trish
be a
at? I saw
dumbass.
her in here.
She just left. She knew you were coming. She's like, I'm out.
Yeah.
Yeah, she just here a minute ago. Oh, well, she's here now. I can get out of here.
Yeah, I just saw. Well, I sent him a link. So our guest's going to be. We have a really cool guest tonight. We have John. Let's see. Let me make sure I got John Sumple and Jack Roth of J3 Films. They are the producers of the cool documentary that's on Amazon Prime. It's all over the place. It's called Sean. You messed that up when you were looking for the old. You were looking for a different one.
Oh yeah, I did. But I watched this. I watched the show that I was supposed to watch.
I thought it was excellent. Extraordinary Seedings. So that was really good. Did I say it right? Or did I screw that one up again? Did I get the right?
It's called The Seedings.
The seeding. It's let's go back. Did Chris come back in? Is she back in, or is that
Trish?
Extraordinary Seeding. It's a really cool documentary. We have had guests on the show like Brian Sharpless, who talked about sleep paralysis, and this is their latest documentary, ED abductions, a phenomenon, and it features experiences and researches and exploration of missing embryos. Now, we've had a lot of different shows on that in the past.
Yep.
And it's really something that I really like. I'm trying to turn off some of these background stuff I have going on here. So I think we have John in the studio and Trish is in the studio again. So I think John's is just going to be.
We are reunited.
So we're going to go ahead and bring our guest on, John. John, welcome to Chasing Prophecy. I'm one of the co-hosts with Sean Kelly, Jason Ian-Petro, and Trish Moe. And I'm so glad that we have you on the show tonight. And we have Jack Roth. He's also on the show. So welcome to Chasing Prophecy.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you so much. You're looking very festive, Sean.
Thanks. Santa Claus, dude.
Yeah.
You kind of look like the real deal.
You do, cool. Sean.
Oh, thank you.
Guys, I just want to say that after watching this, I have been interested in this for years. I've talked to a lot of different people who claim that they were experiencing the same abduction. What kind of got me creeped out was that people truly believe that. So go ahead and tell us a little bit about your documentary for people who haven't watched it. Whoever wants to go ahead, Jack or John.
Jack, I'll let you run with it.
Okay, sure. My mic good? Everything good?
Yeah, you sound good.
Okay. Basically, this film, Extraordinary: The Revelations, is the third film in what we are calling a loose trilogy, and it all started over about 10 years ago or so with the first one, Extraordinary, the Stan Romanek story, which is, as everyone knows, a very controversial story, but we thought that story needed to be told. And what wound up happening is after we were finished with that, we realized there was more story to tell, and we were actually taken on a journey. And we kind of left it off with these hybrid children, right? So you had the abduction experience, but then you had these kids. And I'm like, John, I think that's the why of it all, is these kids. And we need to keep telling the story in a way that is, going to be compelling for people, but keep telling the story. So that's when we came up with the idea of the trilogy. And the second one, which is Extraordinary, the Seeding, focuses on the abduction phenomenon, false, unexplained pregnancies, and focuses mostly on what people have got, what they go through on a personal level when they have these experiences, where women are pregnant and then all of a sudden they're not, and then 7 years later they're abducted again and they see their hybrid child on a ship or wherever. And so it was a very emotional film. And so with the third one, the Revelations, we wanted to tie it all together and kind of bring it home and kind of talk more about the end game, the why. So now that we've led people along to see all these aspects of this phenomena, why is this happening? And that really what the third film attempts to do.
I know that when I was watching it, right before the show, because as Jenny pointed out, I watched the wrong one, of course. So, but I was really intrigued and I was interested in the storyline that y'all had with it, how you broke it down into the different sections. And now, did you go out looking for the people in the movie, or did they come to you?
No, we have a very good relationship with the community and have for the last 10 years, and really started with Jack and I on the first film, kind of learning the ropes with the people within the genre, the experts, the storytellers. And as we started working on the second film, we had built a relationship with Lori Wagner, who had connections to a lot of the people within the ufology realm. And we were able to start making inroads based on the people who we thought would be the best to help tell the stories that we were interested in. So it was as simple as reaching out to people, telling them what we wanted to accomplish through our storytelling, and telling them that our purpose for doing what we do is to serve the story, not to serve our individual or ego interests. It was about their story, whether they're a researcher or they're an experiencer. We were more interested in honoring their story and their perspective.
That's what I picked up off it. I was really impressed on the way it was written and filmed. My kudos to you guys for doing such a thing. It kind of opened up my mind a little bit, because I've been in the paranormal field for over 30 years now. Okay. And for me to actually know or experience it, because I had to see it, and I did see it. I did feel it, stuff like that. Now, I've been on the show. Me and Jenny started the show over a year ago, and we had a lot of experts on aliens and UFOs. Okay. And finally, I'm getting to where I'm falling off the fence to believing in aliens and UFOs, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But for me, and this is only me, this is not about the guest or not, this is me. For me to really, really, truly believe that there's an alien or a UFO, I need to see it personally. Do you understand what I mean?
Absolutely.
So when I listen to stories, and I'm not saying about your story, I'm talking about everybody's story that I hear, to me, I believe it, but in a way, I want to see like some evidence. Do you understand?
Mm-hmm. Sure. Well, I could approach it in a couple of different ways. The first one would be from the perspective of what is our truth based in? And we can say that the world runs in so many ways on faith-based belief. Mm-hmm. Religion, for example, there's no proof, but there's tremendous faith and conviction in those beliefs. And we would say, based on our experiences with people who have been through abduction phenomena, have seen and had the experiences of being on craft and gone through what they would describe as traumatic in that moment, is evidence enough from them, from their perspective. And to honor their not necessarily, I wouldn't say their stories, but their experiences, we should collectively take that into consideration as a possibility that is proof. And when we had conversations with Dr. Jacobs as well as with Mary Rodwell, they both said the evidence that we have collected over dozens of years, not only amongst the two of them, but everybody who's done regression therapy and has talked with people who've had those experiences, they argue that is proof. And the reason why they argue that it's proof is depending on where these people are from, whether it's the geography, their lot in life as far as what their career might be, what their cultural norms are, they're sharing a lot of similar experiences. And from the perspective of that belief structure, those stories, those experiences are evidence. And that they would argue passionately that that's evidence that should be considered whenever we have the storytelling and the opportunity to listen to somebody who's been through something that we can't quite experience. I haven't had an experience. I haven't been abducted. I haven't had that. But I can have compassion, and I am more than willing to listen to somebody who has been through it and say, I will honor your belief. I will honor what you have experienced by being there for you and listening. And I think that's one of the things that has been missing for decades, at least, since the 40s with Roswell and Betty and Barney Hill with their abduction stories. Everything changed from that point of view. Mm-hmm. And we ridiculed those people for forever. And, right. And what we're trying to express is that just because you haven't experienced something or you haven't seen something, that you shouldn't honor the people or listen to the people or encourage people who've had those experiences to come out and tell those stories, because when they do, the collective consciousness is raised and there's more people who are willing to listen, and then there's more people who are willing to share their personal experiences.
Thank you for that. Trish, do you have something to say?
Yeah, Trish.
I was so excited to hear you all were coming on because it was, I believe everything in this universe happens for a reason. And it was a few months ago. See, I'm the newest member of the show. I've been here for 2 months now, maybe?
Yeah, about that.
Yeah. So, and that was random as well. But it was around that time. It was a few months ago. It might have been in the summer. I saw your, the seating, and, probably around August actually. And, I showed one of my really good friends, because things like this have happened, where my TV will just come on, in the middle of the day, night, spirits wanting to show me. I don't watch TV on a regular basis, but if something does come on my TV that I am led to watch, there's always a reason for it. And so my TV came on one day, that was on, in the background while I was working. I stopped. I thought, that's my background is I've experienced.
Wait, can you clarify? Did you say that the seating was on when your TV came on?
Yes. So something was wanting me to watch that.
Wow.
And so, see, my experience is different than my co-host in the fact that, I haven't researched things. I haven't written books or done anything like that. I have experienced a lot of stuff in life. So I have these stories that, I thought I was crazy for half my life, and I'm sure my friends and family did as well. But so I have compassion. I guess I can empathize in that way with other people in a sense. But so when those came on, I thought, wait a minute, that's exactly what happened to me. You know, that what has happened to me in life. I've been abducted since I don't know, probably since I was a baby, for that matter. And it's when people without shows.
The hell was that?
I don't know.
That's the
So much
motorcycle went by. I'm going to
Uh-oh.
mute in case there's more loud noises.
Somebody's getting their
When
Uber
people
Eats.
put out shows like that, not only does it help other people come forward, like me, you know, I might not even be on here. That was weird.
That was really
Where did they
weird.
go?
Did we just lose 3 people?
Yes. So
Strange.
everything happens for a reason, like I said. That's crazy. But
Well,
when shows like yours come out like that does help other people. That almost makes it real, because then I thought, oh, so I'm not crazy. You know, I'm not the only one. There are others out there. And that's such a great and you know, I went and I showed one of my really good friends. I'm like, you're not going to believe this. This is exactly what happens to me. Whether or not they believe me, that's beside, you know what I mean? But it's kind of a reassurance. The same if I see a movie or something.
Well,
Everybody.
Frozen in time.
No,
this is called Torture Tuesday, guys.
Yes, we call this Torture Tuesday.
Torture Tuesday.
Jenny disappeared. Trisha's froze.
Okay.
Here she's back.
There's
Wait,
demons,
there we are.
demons in the those
Yes.
aliens are trying to.
It's getting
trying-
cold out,
they were
so
trying-
the gremlins are active.
They were trying
They're
to put on the
stop me
seating.
Yes, they were.
They're trying to stop you from talking.
But Trisha, the thing that you just mentioned, though, that it has been so rewarding for us is exactly what you've just shared. We have heard, I'm not kidding, thousands of times over the course of the last 4 years from people who, even as a couple of weeks ago, people sending messages saying, I just watched the seating. Oh my God, I felt like I was watching my life on screen. I was watching, this one woman said, I had goosebumps the entire time because everything that was happening, I had experienced. And I realized for the first time in my life that I was not alone, that other people were going through the same thing that I was. And she said there was a tremendous amount of relief, tears. She said it was something that I felt like I was no longer alone with what I was going through.
And it's not only that, you know, even especially with you all being on the show, even at that time, a few months ago, you know, I was, well, this was before I was even on this show. You know, I never in my wildest dreams would have thought that I had the courage to do this, even much less, you know, reach out to other people or start my own website and things that I technically began 6 months ago, but I was still kind of living in that fear. So it's taken me a while. But
you should be commended for doing this because you're helping other people connect to community and also understand that they're not alone. It's a fantastic thing that you're doing. I commend you for that.
Thank you.
Good job, Trish.
So even back then, I was thinking, I want to contact these people. I want to, maybe I can email them. Maybe I can get more information. Maybe I can learn when their next movie's coming out. Maybe I can, whatever, you know, maybe I can give them my story. And then I got afraid to do that. So, you know, it's one of those things like, so when Jenny said you all were coming, I'm like, no way. Like, you know, there's always, so when people say, do you have to, I don't know who asked you if you find these people or if they find you. I think in this world, if you build it, they will come. You know, you find the right people technically find you.
Right.
If they're interested in your show, if it's something that will help them, they will.
Right. And we've had a lot of synchronicity since this started. And we tend to get a lot of that. And, you know, I think and that's how it works too. You know, you talk about people who, in order for them to, if they have an experience, whether it doesn't have to be as traumatic as an abduction. It could just be a ghost experience, right?
Right.
Where you see something or you hear something or something paranormal happens. And then then you're going to believe it like Sean, like you said, I'll believe it when I see it,
Right.
or I'll believe it when I hear it, or I'll believe it whatever. So there's got to be something. It's a personal thing. And when we set out to do this as filmmakers, we thought it was really important. Our mantra is, what if this is true? So what we do in every one of these films is we present evidence. We talk to these people. We are real with them and they are real with us. And we get down into these subject matters and we present it to people. And our goal isn't to sway or convince or any of that. It's simply to inform, educate, and help. That was something that we realized that after we did the seeding, that we're helping people, and we're so glad for that. But that was like this added, all of a sudden, this bonus thing where people are coming up to us saying, I had an unexplained pregnancy. I think I was abducted. It's been, and people literally have post-traumatic stress from these experiences.
Absolutely.
You know, and people don't realize that. If you haven't gone through it, you don't care. You know, we always talk about, and we should talk about soldiers who return home from battle. They have PTSD. We should care about that. We should help them in any way we can. So why shouldn't we also help people who may have had a real traumatic paranormal experience, you know, and that leaves a scar, literally has scarred them. So we kind of recognize this post-traumatic stress, not only in the people that we call them experiencers, but also the whistleblowers, the military guys that we spoke to in the film. A lot of emotion. And a lot of, you know, they have to deal with a lot. It is not an easy thing to know something that very few people know, and you can't talk about it for 50 years until you're 80 years old. And now you're like, let him kill me. I don't care anymore.
Absolutely.
Basically, Absolutely. Is what they all say. They all say it.
But so today, before the show, you know, which I usually get all these downloads or whatever around moons, and the new moon was recent, but I was thinking about that, you know, because we live in, so even with the pandemic, we live in fear of everything. You know, and it is no different, like you said, of soldiers coming home from war. It's the same as even unspoken things like domestic violence or rape or things like that, you know. And I've learned this by going, I used to go to a lot of, with ghosts, and I was drawn to a lot of asylums and things like that. And people were put in asylums for just not wanting to clean house back in the day or whatever, you know, and there's always a root cause for everything. And so when I was thinking about that earlier, I'm like, that's no different than, you know, this fear is you can die. You can go out and get hit by a car. You can get, you know, be in a car accident. You can die every day. But you can also live every day, you know? And so there's universes within universes in our own world, for that matter. You know, there's microorganisms that can kill you faster than something falling from the sky. You know, and I think with all of my, I have lived in fear many times of many things, you know, lightning and horses, you name it. I've had
horses.
So I was like, you know, why not start today? Why not, you know, I guess by watching all these people, if somebody else has done it, you know, with anything, whether it's positive or negative, that means it can happen to you or you can do it as well. So that's kind of what.
If that happened to you, like, how could you even live a normal life? I mean, knowing that you had a baby and it's on a different dimension, I don't know. How do these people go on and live their normal life? I
think it's tough in the beginning, for sure. And we've seen this with a lot of people, is that their initial reaction is one of fear, concern, trauma. And then as they unpack it, a lot of times what people find is that they chose this as their soul journey, to be, you know, doing this in this lifetime. But that doesn't mean that everybody gets to that point in a very short amount of time, or even relatively, you know, it could take people 10, 15, 20, 30 years before they get to the point where they accept that what's happening to them, there's a purpose to it, and maybe they were the ones who selected this journey. But that doesn't mean that what they've been through is not traumatic, or not leaving a scar, or not having an impact. When we did the interviews, we spoke to, gosh, Jack, we spoke to about 40 different people for the second film, and we wound up paring it down to a half a dozen or so that we thought were good. But every single one of the people that we spoke to, they all were emotional. They all wanted to tell their story, but some of them felt like they couldn't take that step forward to say, I can put it out there, because they're of the fear of ridicule, of the fear how the community that they live in would react, how their family might react. One woman we spoke with said, if I were to go public with this, my husband would leave me and take my kids. So imagine living with that, knowing that your life hinges on whether or not you're telling your truth, or you have to bury it because the world isn't ready, or the people around you aren't ready to hear it. It's horrible.
Well, the one woman that really stuck out in my mind was the Geraldine, the dark-haired woman. I'm not pronounce how she pronounces her last name. She looked Italian.
Orozco.
Yeah. Okay. Now, she seemed like she really channeled that into a more positive thing, that she can help more people. And then the other quieter ones, they didn't seem like the young man, Rob. He seemed like even towards the end, he was still shaken up. Like he seemed like he's more, I felt that he was struggling with it more than the others.
I think it's hard, even in anything, as much healing as we think we've done. Even though I'm okay talking about things that have happened to me, I still fall back into that occasionally. It's never a permanent fix.
No,
I don't know if it ever will be.
Uh-oh, we lost Jenny again.
Every time.
So I have a question for you, gentlemen. Of all the people that you've interviewed and talked to and got their stories and everything about being abducted, have you noticed like any continuous trend or something that they all particularly have in common? Like there's just something about these certain people that makes them like more susceptible for abductions compared to somebody else. Like, have you guys noticed anything?
So that's one of the fascinating things about this, is that it doesn't matter who you are. Now, one of the things I will say, there are theories out there, right? Blood type, DNA. Certainly, if you're more, I think if you're more sensitive, right? Certainly, you're going to possibly experience more in certain circumstances with the paranormal. Certainly with ghosts and things like that. But with the abductions, it's people from all walks of life, socioeconomic, strata, come in all shapes and sizes. It's just men, women, and children. Seriously, they're just. It's what we've learned is this is a part of the human experience. Whether we want to believe it, whether we choose to believe it, whatever we might think, it is part of the human experience. We've been experiencing these things for a long time. And the same goes with ET contact and UFOs in the sky and abductions and, all these strange things. It's all, and the way we react to it, right? I did want to mention another thing that does happen in these cases with the women, especially and men too, but the women, so you're pregnant, your baby's inside you. Then all of a sudden you'll have an experience, another strange experience, right? You're abducted. The child's no longer in you. So you've had this quote unquote unexplained pregnancy. But then years later, you have another abduction. Imagine so you're showing your child, right, on board a craft, wherever, and the maternal instinct kicks in. So you automatically love this child. And from what we've gotten, now some of the children, depending on their hybrid makeup, some are more emotional than others, right? So if they're more grayish and more robotic, they're just like, they'll look at you and they're curious as to who you are, but they know there's a connection there. Some are very emotional. There could be hugs, there could be, whatever. And then imagine that happening, then having to say goodbye again. That's your child. That's part of your DNA. And there's a maternal instinct there that's probably the strongest instinct we have as human beings. So it's just, yeah, but it's everyone. I mean, that all over the world. And I think that, again, it's just a bigger part of what we call human experience.
But one thing I would say is common through the women that we spoke to specifically for that film is all of them were abducted when they were young. They were given some sort of an implant that allowed them to be biomonitored to the point where when they were fertile, then they would begin, I hate to say the word, but the harvesting process. So from that point of view, each one of the women that we spoke to for that film, whether they were in interviews that were pre-screening people or when we actually conducted the interviews on camera, they all shared that they had been abducted at a very young age. And some of them didn't realize it until they were older. Geraldine was one of those examples that when she started to do some regression, she started having recall to being around 5, 6 years old when she had her first abduction experience. And I think that was a common theme that we had incurred when we were having those discussions with people, that there are some patterns to that. Another one would be military. A lot of the people that have had these type of experiences have some sort of a military connection. So there is not to say that that's everybody, but there is a thread there with military connections. Even Clifford Stone and Dan Sherman both believe that they're hybrid. Their DNA is something that was. They were part of a program that when they were born, they were monitored by the military for the sole purpose. When they got old enough and could enlist and be a part of these programs, they were going to be tapped on the shoulder to say, now that you're in the military, this is what you're going to do. And what can they say? I mean, when we spoke with Dan Sherman about
he was told, right? He was
told. He was called into an office with an officer and one other person who was, I guess you'd call his handler, and was told, this is your story. This is what happened, and this is why you're here, and this is what we're going to work with you. I mean, imagine getting that, slapped across your face, when you're in your early 20s. It's. Yeah. And when we look at something like that, the thing that we didn't come out and take a 2x4 to the head in the messaging in the film, the revelations, but the three gentlemen that we had on the military whistleblower, they all had been used. They were used by the military to advance their agenda. Communication was the primary desire, was that we need you to play a role for our benefit. And even though they don't come out and say that they were used, Clifford probably would admit that he was used, but the other two wouldn't. But when you stand back and listen to them tell their story and you read their books, it's so obvious that they were manipulated, they were monitored, they were kind of, prepared for a job that they needed to do when they were when the military needed them.
I think
and they're all,
one of the hardest things with that, like you were saying, is changing and it's very hard to do. It's very hard to continue to do as well, is changing the perspective of it and knowing that, I actually realized this by watching a bunch of children's movies, and there's always a key, and there's always, I don't know if you all have seen Sucker Punched, where, she goes to a different place when she's dancing. And so it's our bodies are just shells. That's how I came to accept being used. And, because for the longest time, whoever was communicating with me or whatever, there's some of them that aren't very nice, and some of them that have that I might consider not very nice, because the only way they can relay a message might be something that would come off offensive. Like, I used to hear puppy mill, and I'm like, puppy mill? What does that have to do with me? Well, it's like a puppy mill, And so at first I was offended by that. And I'm like, well, that's rude. And I used to pass this human resources sign at work all the time on my way home. And they kept saying, you're a human resources. and it was like they use humans as resources. I'm like, well, that's terrible. And I went through a whole acceptance thing of that. And so I think changing perspective changes people's lives, changes their acceptance of it, because then you think it's like, I went to watch The Lion King with my kids, and I was like, that makes a lot of sense, because to a frog in science class, humans are the abductees,
Right.
where they're performing experiments on them and pulling their legs off, and so everything in this, and then when I was thinking of NASA, and the telescopes and Hubble and stuff, it's no different. It's no different. It's all
exploration. Yeah, and
Right.
it's just, you can extrapolate. I mean, we are encouraging people to kind of change their mindset from the earthbound bubble that we're in, and thinking that, we're the be all end all. We're the be all end all as far as race is concerned. We're the be all end all as far as planets are concerned, solar systems, whatever. We have the tendency to have this confirmation bias that we're alone, we're the best, nothing could be as great as this. But gosh, just go back 100 years, 500 years, 1,000 years, 2,000 years. Wasn't so great. It's better now. It's getting better, and it's because of evolution and testing and going into those situations where we are exploring the nether regions of the planet and learning more about who we are, what's living here, what purpose they serve, what role they can play in providing us with resources, on this planet. That's no different. Just extrapolate out and think about it from a cosmic perspective. We are just a petri dish in the grand scheme of things. We're a speck, a tiny, tiny speck.
John, do you think that they brought any of the hybrids back to Earth and reunited them with their mother without the mother knowing it? Is there any reports of that?
I thought about that. I thought about it a lot, and nothing against children nowadays, but they're like a whole new different breed now. Nothing like the way we were raised up.
Technology.
They're more technology. They're smarter. So do I think so? Yeah, I believe they can.
I was directing that to John, but that's okay.
Oh, you said Sean.
I said John.
Sean, sounds the same. It's very similar.
Or Jack. Do you
Sorry,
think that
John.
they could have done that, or do you think that?
Jack, you could probably talk about Rachel's eyes a little bit here too with that story, because that one's probably one of the ones that's most prevalent in the public eye.
You can't hear me.
What was that?
We can hear you now.
We can hear you.
I keep losing. I don't. Every time I try to ask you these questions, I keep losing. So, what do you think about that?
Jack, share the Rachel's eyes.
Yeah, well, that's always been really interesting to us. And again, because that's such a big deal. It's if these hybrid children exist, and there are hybridization programs, there's probably very little that's more important to the fate of humanity moving forward, right? I mean, there's some things that are not a big deal, and there's some things that are a very big deal, and this is a very big deal. And the story John's referring to is a book written by Helen Luttrell called Rachel's Eyes. If you've never read it, get it, read it, because it really opens your eyes. This story blew me away. Here's this woman, very unassuming, it's just an older woman now. She's quite advanced in age, but she had a daughter that went to a community college in California. And she had diabetes since a child, so her eyesight was really bad. And she lived in this apartment complex, whatever. She got a roommate through the college, and the roommate was Rachel, okay, quote unquote Rachel. And the guy that came along to, was her father. It was really not her father. We don't know who, but it was a colonel in the military. And Rachel was a hybrid, but I'm talking about how these days we think that hybrids can fit in completely. Mm-hmm. One of us can be a hybrid. We can all be hybrids, but if it's a true hybrid, that we wouldn't know the difference. That's how better the technology has gotten for these ETs as they've been working on this. But back in the 70s, this is in the 70s, and Rachel was not. She was human looking, but she had to wear a big scarf around her head and big sunglasses, and she wore like this jumpsuit, and she was really frail and petite, and she had, she was very strange looking. Her skin was just gray, and so she was like, it would have been like the first hybrid test. Like, well, maybe we need to put a little more human. And the experiment was in the military to see if she can go out there and go into society and flourish and see if anyone noticed. And in the end, it didn't work. And it's a sad story. I don't want to get into too much detail on it, but the idea that, a lot of people think, well, they are already here. They have been planted back into society, and they all have roles to play when it comes to whatever is going to happen in the future. But Sean, again, you mentioned the idea that, these days we really try to define everything. So we have like autism, Asperger's, all these kids now have autism, where we didn't even know what that was. And a lot of people think that, or at least theorize that this is the next level in our evolution, that these kids are actually thinking the right way, and we're just thinking the old way. They're thinking the new way. But it's really weird to think that. But there is a lot of Mary Rodwell talks about it. She wrote a book about it. It's called The New Human. And it's literally the new human. These are the new humans. This is what we're going to be now. And so, it's hard to, and again, then are we all hybrids, and have been for a very long time, for 40,000 years, since they started manipulating our DNA all that time ago when we were Cro-Magnon men. So, we don't know, and that's the way we approach the films, is we don't have the answers, and we're not going to provide you with any answers, but we're going to provide you with a lot of really compelling information that you're going to hopefully ask questions, go out and do your own research, and buy some really good books, by some really good researchers, and then draw your own conclusions.
Yeah.
You said about the blood type. What is the blood type that you suspect is more alien in nature?
Well, we can hear you. It's the Rh negative. And it is, there's no conclusive evidence around this, but there have been, I guess, some tests. I can't speak to it because I don't know that much about it. Jack maybe knows a little bit more, but I think a lot of it is hypotheses right now. And there have been some people who've done some studies, but nothing has been conclusively brought forward with it. There are people who have, however, since we've been getting these DNA tests that come back with a certain percentage of unknown components in their DNA. And we know of some people who've had the tests where, 1 to 2% of unknown, unqualified DNA is you can expect an aberration from time to time, but we have talked with people who've had 26%. And a child of theirs had 13%. So that makes you kind of wonder, what's going on there? So as soon as we say something like that, people are like, well, did you do the test? Did you test them? Did you find out all of that? Most of the time when you have a conversation with somebody about, okay, we're going to treat you like a lab rat, and we're going to poke you, and we're going to take, blood from you and test your DNA to prove your story. Most of them are going to say, absolutely not. I know who I am. I don't need to prove to anybody. And we've heard that numerous times, especially from people who say that they have a hybrid bloodline. And it's like, I don't need to prove anything to anybody. And I know there's a lot of people out there who need the empirical evidence in order to kind of move forward with this. And we completely understand that. We know that this is a movie that some people are going to be like, yeah, this is any of the movies that we make. We know that it's not for everybody. In fact, we would probably say that most people who are convicted in their beliefs that are the opposite of what we're the subject matter that we're talking about, this isn't for them, and don't bother watching it. It's just not going to resonate with you. But what we would encourage, though, in our films is that as Jack said earlier, we want to ask the question, what if this is all true? We pose our films and direct our films more to the middle of the bell curve as opposed to people who already believe, because what what do we need to do with people who already believe? If you already believe, you don't need to be convinced further. You're already there. So what we try to do in the entertain and educate and create engagement with the storytelling that we do, so that people who are more in the middle of the bell curve, who might not have explored this as deeply as others have, that they will find something like this to be eye-opening or enlightening, or, as Jack said earlier, encourage them to go and do their own research. That's really what we're hoping to do. So if you're a believer and you have watched our films and you're like, yeah, there really wasn't anything in there for me because I had seen it all before, I've heard of all this before, I'm plugged in, I get it, this movie wasn't targeted towards you. But what you can do, if you're one of those people, is you can go to the people that you know, Trisha, like you did with your friend, and say, you need to see this. I think you should watch this. This might help open your eyes or create some awareness that you might not have had before. And there are aha moments. We have witnessed it when people have watched the film. We had people who were triggered when they watched the seating to the point of being emotional in the theater because it triggered something that happened to them, unbeknownst to them going in.
It almost triggers the people close to you as well, that you've exhausted yourself trying to get them to believe you. You know, I told preachers and church groups and my parents from the time I was little, everybody under the sun, and nobody believed me. And then they see something like that, and somebody will say something that obviously especially if it was something that was just released, there's no way I don't know that person from halfway across the world. We didn't collaborate in any way. And they said exactly what I told them. And that's when I think, it almost triggers the whole healing process all over again, because now not only are you not the only one that's happened to, and there are others out there. So there's that feeling of relief. But then there's also the guilt from others that didn't believe you to begin with, and processing all of that all over again as well. So it's a weird, but again, it's human evolution. It's unlearning and relearning and maybe learning the way it was to begin with, which I've always said that we're all aliens, because it's so profound to me that UFOs have been documented literally since the beginning of time, in writing, in stories, in firsthand accounts, since ancient times, hieroglyphics in the Bible, in almost every religion out there, and people still don't believe them. Yet they believe in those religions. Or, it's like I always say, I believe in hurricanes. I've never experienced one. I have never personally seen a hurricane. I still believe in it.
But getting back to like the sleep paralysis with Brian Sharpless, who was convinced that there are no alien abductions, it's all something that happens in your brain, because they all have the same experience of being unable to move, wanting to talk, can't talk, and they see these gray-like creatures, shadowy creatures. They all see it, but when you talk to him, he's a psychologist, and he says that no, he seemed adamant about it. I don't know about you guys. He seemed like he was adamant that he didn't believe that they were alien abducted.
And he's a mainstream scientist. I mean, these PhDs, a lot of times they'll lose their tenure. I mean, there's a lot at stake for them, which it shouldn't be that way. But we talk about the classes that people teach now, right? And the things we're quote unquote learning and how we're learning it, and what we know and what we don't know. When you get someone like that, there's sleep paralysis exists, but that doesn't explain away the whole thing, right? No. It doesn't, so you're having, so yes, you can't move, you're paralyzed, you kind of know you're awake, but you can't move, you're frozen, it's scary. But how does it explain the false unexplained pregnancies? Yeah. How does it explain the marks on your body? How does it explain seeing these different types of, it's not the same types of creatures. There's alien grays, there's Pleiadians, Nordic, reptilians, grasshopper, whatever, praying mantis. So, you know, it's a lot. I find that insulting. And, you know, here's the thing, like, we make these films to try to open people's minds.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like the mainstream academia is so closed off to all of this.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, Trish, I know you had mentioned that I give you a lot of credit for going to your church group and your past. Those would be the last people I go to, because they're never going to support. I mean, they're so indoctrinated. Yeah, I mean, that's like,
it was, you know, something before I didn't believe that was happening to me at the time. I believed at the time in ghosts. I believed in spirits. I believed in almost everything else under the sun. But I did not. I even believed in aliens and UFOs. Especially I was born outside of Roswell, you know, that's been in my life forever. So it's not something I didn't believe in. I didn't believe that was what was happening.
What's happening too. And that's that. We've heard the same thing too. We've heard some people who thought that it was spirit, demon. And then once they, you know, especially if they've been connected to the church in some way, shape or form, they were told that what was happening to them was explainable because this is what we know it to be based on religious doctrine, and that this is what's happening to you. And, you know, and sometimes children and families are ostracized from a community because of their possession. And it's a horrible, horrible thing that people have to go through. It's just, what really gets, I think Jack and I both agitated to the point of, you know, we'll lose our cool a little bit, is when somebody tries to explain away another person's experience. If you can sit in a room with somebody and say what you experienced is a lie, what you experienced is sleep paralysis, what you experienced was demons, what you experienced was a dream, it's like you cannot do that. You cannot sit there and project your beliefs on somebody else's personal experience. It's their experience. It's not yours to explain away. So if we could be a little bit more compassionate and listen to the Trishas of the world's stories in a way that enlightens us, with that filter saying, I'm not going to judge you. I'm going to listen to you. I'm going to hug you when you're done telling me, because I know it's been so traumatic for you. And I'm going to be there for you whenever I might not have experience. I don't know what you're talking about, but I can be there for you. I can care for you. And if you ever need, you know, someone to talk to, come to me. We want to, if we can accomplish that with our films, then we've committed, you know, something. We've committed something to the annals of history that will be forever a part of our legacy that we would be very proud of.
Yeah.
I used to compare that to. I used to drive by this road that was Helen Keller Parkway or something. But so I went back and I remembered watching that and reading the book Miracle Worker in high school. And all of these things started clicking, you know, when I changed my perspective. And that whole saying, change your perspective, it changes it absolutely. Because I once those things, you know, especially being more compassionate towards others and putting it into just as frustrated as I get when somebody wasn't believing me, they're just as frustrated that I'm not believing that they're being compassionate. You know, it was a whole balance thing. And so, but yes, the miracle worker, you know, I was thinking how hard it must have been for somebody when she said, this is water, it has a name, you know, and to get somebody to learn something, unlearn something that they cannot see, hear, smell, experience in any other way. You know, you have to bring so many resources together to do that. And I think that's, I thought of, you know, my daughter got a splinter one time, which is what made me change my perspective on this. And she was very dramatic. This was when I thought she was very dramatic about it, you know, and I'm like, oh, it's just a splinter. Okay, well, I work with wood. I get splinters all the time. So, you know, a carpenter would get splinters and think nothing of it because it happens to them often. It happens and maybe it doesn't affect them. You know, after the first time, it doesn't hurt as bad. Okay. I thought about that with my own daughter. You know, maybe this is the biggest and the first splinter she's ever had in her life. So it's going to be terrifying. It's going to be traumatizing.
Right. It's a good analogy.
She's never experienced. So I cannot, while and then you put yourself back to the first time, like maybe I got a splinter. I'm like, okay, yeah, that did hurt really bad. And I thought it was terrible that I had a piece of wood in my skin. And I think that's with anything in life. We become more tolerant. We become kind of numb to the empathy if it's something that happens more often to one person compared to the other or whatever.
I think Stephen Covey's seek first, understand before being understood is something that society would benefit greatly from if we just chose to listen more, talk less, and just, let somebody tell you their story. Don't judge them. Don't try to explain it. Just listen. Just listen to it, and then be there for them. And it's something that I think, we've talked about this quite a bit. Jack and I have had numerous conversations over the last 25 years about why we're here, where do we go when we die, what's the true essence of our experience here. And the one thing that we can all agree on is that we don't know, that we don't have the answers yet, but it is up to us to push the envelope, to push the border, to push, the further we go out, the more questions there are to ask than answers there are to get. So every time we push, every time we learn a little bit more, we learn exponentially more about the human experience. And we talk about this all the time. When people, going back 10,000 years ago, they might have thought the earth was flat. Going back a couple thousand years, well, not even a couple thousand years ago, 600-700 years ago, they thought the earth was the center of the universe. But it changed based on pushing the boundaries, understanding that there's more to it. So as we evolve, whether it's through wisdom or science or math, whatever it might be, we push the boundaries. And to assume that we know all there is to know today is ludicrous, because we have so much more to learn whenever we have people who are willing to push the boundaries. And when they do get pushed, society will evolve. And we'll accept some of the things that we don't understand today as being part of the human experience. So I think what we're trying to do in the films that we're making is, hey, everybody, maybe this alien thing is just part of the human experience that we haven't come to grips with yet because we don't know enough. And until we know more, it's worthy of having the conversation. And that's all we're trying to do, is stimulate the conversation.
Oh, you said it. So you guys, where can we see the whole series, and what's the next one you're working on before we let you go? The best place to go is to our website, j3films.com. There will be links there to where you can see each individual film. The new film that came out just a little over a week ago, Extraordinary: The Revelations, is available on major platforms right now as a digital download or an on-demand. It will eventually, on-demand rental, it will eventually work its way to some of the streaming platforms. But we just encourage people to watch any of them. And we guarantee you that we'll encourage you to ask questions. As far as what's next, we have several things in the works, some paranormal, some ufology, and some outside of that world. But we're excited to do whatever comes down our path. And we're fortunate enough that we have a lot of people that we've been in contact with where we have, Jack, we've talked to some pretty amazing people who've had incredible stories that are worthy of telling. Well, we'll have to all listen to them. But thanks again for coming on to this show.
Thank you, guys.
Yes, thank
It's
you.
a great documentary, and I advise everybody to try to watch it and have an open mind.
Thank you so much. We really
Good night,
appreciate
guys.
it.
Merry Christmas to you.
Well, that was really good. I'm so glad we had them on the show. I'm glad they got a hold of us. I mean, I emailed them a couple times until their PR person actually emailed me back. But this show was brought to you by Carnation. Make sure you get some. So we're going to let you guys all go.
Oh my.
Are you going to use carnation in your baking goods for Christmas?
Yes, I am.
Awesome.
Breakfast essentials.
But we'll see you all next week. We don't have anybody scheduled yet, but you guys are more than welcome to. If you know anybody that wants to be on the show, if you have an interest in the paranormal, UFOlogy, anything, conspiracies, give us a holler. And you can instant message us on Facebook or email us at chasingprophecyradio@gmail.com. Okay, guys. Hey,
All
Sean,
right.
what's your show about this week before we let you go?
Me and Trish are going to talk about whatever we're going to talk about.
Okay.
Maybe continue this conversation
There
we
you
had on
go.
this show.
Find out
Mhm.
about that alien visitations. So if you were abducted, you can tell Sean. I'll make sure I'll put it on.
I got a tour to the Sally House next week in Hutchinson.
Cool.
So I'm going to talk about that.
We can
That's
talk
cool.
about
You can
that
talk
too.
about that. Well, thank you all for joining Chasing Prophecy. You have a great night. I'm not gonna.